Well, good evening, everyone. I want to welcome you to Alderwood's first ever Vision Night. Thank you for coming. We are really excited to share what God has been leading us towards in this next year and where we're headed, and we really want you to be able to get excited about that with us as well tonight. One of the things I want to talk about just at the top is why Vision Night? Why do we need to talk about vision? And one of the things that we really believe strongly about what it means to be faithful leaders here at this church is that we need to think not just about what God is calling us to do today or what he's calling us to do next week, but to also think about what God's intent is for our church a year from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. I think that's one of the beautiful things about being at a church that's 100 years old, is we recognize that God was at work here generations ago when no one could have imagined all that he would do to get us here. And we know that we can't totally imagine what God's going to do even tomorrow, let alone 10 years ago, but we want to be asking that question. We want to be praying. We want to be looking for where the Holy Spirit's leading our church. And so we're going to show you some really cool things today about some doors that we've seen God opening, about some things that he's been putting on our hearts and in our imaginations about where he's taking this church. And part of it is just in asking the question, what does it look like to represent the kingdom of God? What does it look like to be a church that's shining as a light in this place at this time? And so we're looking around Linwood, and we're seeing about what's happening in South Snohomish County and the fact that this area is just blowing up, that there's an apartment complex getting built every month around here, it feels like. And we're seeing the city and the area really change as well. We're seeing a lot more diversity than we've ever seen in this area. And that's diversity all over the place. Ethnically, certainly, socioeconomically. We're seeing diversity of age, single people, married people, families, all of this. And we think it's really important that we grasp how important it is that Alderwood is right at the heart of that. That we have an opportunity to represent Jesus to this area and all the different kinds of people that are here, that it matters that they see a gospel-centered church loving Jesus, loving people, making the good news of Jesus known. So that's what we're about. And there's some really specific ways that God has given us some opportunities to take those kinds of steps. And you're going to hear about that tonight. In just a second, we're going to bring out a panel of people who represent some of the different ministries of this church with some big things ahead, and you're going to hear their hearts. You're going to hear why we're excited about where we're going, and I can't wait for you to do that. As you're hearing this tonight, I want you to know that you also get to participate. So I want you all to pull out your phones right now or an iPad or whatever and go to alderwood.cc/Slido. You've been with us for a while. You've seen us do this a couple times. What Slido is it's a way for you to ask questions, and it's a way for you to also upvote the questions of other people so that the most asked questions get to the top. We're only going to have time for a few probably, and so we want to make sure we hit the questions that matter to the most of you. And so you can submit your own, but also, as you have that out throughout the night, as you see somebody else's question that you think that's a really good question, give that a thumbs up, and it'll rise up to the top, and at the very end, we will hit the ones that have gotten the most votes from all of you. So alderwood.cc/Slido is what you're looking for, and we do have a slide for that, if we can get that up on the screen for you. So you're going to hear a lot of stories. You're going to hear a lot of plans. You're going to ask questions. At the very end, we'll give you a quick 5-minute break, and then we will get into the Q&A and get you out of here for the night. But right now, I want to pray for us, and we'll invite the panel to come out. God, thank you for your faithfulness to Alderwood Community Church. Thank you for the way that you have been at work right here all the way back when this was just chicken farms, when this was just rural, there was nothing, there was no freeways, there was no apartment buildings, there was no mall, and yet you were here and you had a plan that you were working so that this body would be here today, so that our families, our kids, our neighbors would be growing in our faith, following Jesus together. You saw that ahead, and now we want to look ahead and ask where you're leading us in the future. And so, God, give us eyes to see that. Give us courage to step into it and help us to be as effective as we can be in reaching people with the gospel of Jesus. So in his name we pray. Amen. Well, all right, we have a great panel here tonight. Hey, guys, thanks for joining us. Why don't we start by just introducing ourselves? Steve, we'll start with you.
I am Steve Brooks, Executive Pastor of CARE.
I'm Ari Mailer, the Compassion Center Director.
My name is Jason Carter, and I'm the Elder Board Chairman.
My name is Mitchell Morris, and I'm the Preteen Associate Director.
You work here?
I do now.
Okay. Yeah, some of you guys don't know Mitchell, one of the newest employees of Alderwood. We hired a couple people just this summer, and really excited to have him on staff. Mitchell was an intern with us in student ministries for a long time, and is jumped in with 2 feet into preteen ministry, which we're going to talk about a little bit later. So on your cards, you saw we were hoping to have Jeremy Pete here tonight. You can pray for Jeremy. Really messed up his back. He's not doing great. He's in bed. He's getting better. He's going to be back soon, but couldn't join us tonight, so you can say a prayer for him. But Mitchell, we wanted you. We're glad you're here. You found out like a day ago, and you stepped up to the plate, so thank you for doing that. Well, I'm gonna jump in first, and one of the things that I just can't wait to tell you about is midweek. You've been hearing us talk a little bit about midweek the last few months, and really, midweek was birthed out of a desire for our church to be able to grow and to follow Jesus together, not just on Sunday mornings, but that there would be another night in the week, another time to come, and as a whole family to grow in our love of Jesus and our love of the Scriptures. And that's who we are as a church. That's what we think it means to be a church, that we are a family that follows Jesus together. And there's something about the fact that you can't really get to know people and be in a relationship with people on a Sunday morning in the auditorium. It's hard. In a room this big, it's just hard to have even real conversations sometimes. And some of us are better at it than others, and some of us wish that those people would stop talking to us. So, and yet at the same time, it can be hard to take the jump from a big room like this into a living room and to make that commitment, and especially for a life group, to be in that for a year. And so we were thinking about how can we have a step in between that? How can we have some easier ways for new people at our church to get involved, to meet people, to start to develop a relationship? So that was one piece. There was another thing on my heart, which is that we say that what it means to follow Jesus together for our church is we use 3 words to talk about that. It means connect, grow, and go. And you're going to hear me talk about that more this Sunday. But when I stepped into the lead role a couple years ago, it seemed to me like our church had this massive, amazing, really intentional ministry of life groups helping people connect. And we have service teams all over the place, people discipling our kids and greeting, and we have mission teams that are being sent out. We have the Compassion Center, and so there's all these go ministries as well. But when it came to that grow piece for our church, there was a lot going on, certainly Sunday mornings, and we had a lot of Bible studies that people decided to lead on their own, but we had kind of a gap there as far as the big things that our church does. And so we were saying, how could we have a ministry that was really centered on grow? And so midweek has grown out of that. Wednesday nights have always been a huge night for our student ministries and for our kids ministries, and yet for adults, it hasn't really been a big thing. Midweek, we're going to bring everyone together, and on Wednesday nights now, we're going to have an amazing grow opportunity for all of our church, kids all the way through our oldest adults here on our campus, growing together and following Jesus with one another. So that's what midweek is, and I want to talk a little bit about that adult piece, because that's really the new piece to what's going on in midweek. And the thing that we're going to offer for adults is called growth tracks. So there's going to be 2 different sessions in the year, 2 10-week lengths of times. We're going to offer 2 different growth tracks. The first one starts September 13th, and what growth tracks are is it's basically a huge Bible study, but it's a Bible study probably unlike anything you've done before. So here's what it's going to look like. I'll use the September one as an example. So we're going to be in the book of Hebrews, starting in September for 10 weeks. And each week, there's going to be a passage from that book, and we're going to invite people to first read it on their own. So before you come on a Wednesday night, we're going to ask you to read this passage, to pray, to reflect on it. We're going to give you some really clear and easy questions to help you process it so that you're not just left on your own. And we think that this might take 30 to 60 minutes. We know for some of you, that's not even going to happen. The life is just crazy. You're going to want to do it, not be able to. That's okay. If all you have the time to do is just read it and show up, that's okay. If you show up to your group and say, I don't even know where Hebrews is in my Bible, we love you too, okay? So it's not legalistic, but the hope is that we'd come having read this, and then we're going to sit around a table in small groups, and we're going to share with one another. We're going to talk about what we observed, what questions we had, what confused us, and you're going to see the way that God helps you grow through the community, through the church. You're going to see things that other people point out that you missed. You're going to have people ask questions that didn't even occur to you, but as soon as they say that, you go, yeah, what about that? You're going to see God use other people. And then as you process this together, we're all going to come into the auditorium at the end of the night. We're going to worship together, and you're also going to hear a teaching on that passage. And I think what you're going to find is that teaching experience is going to be very different from what you're used to on a Sunday morning. There's something so amazing about having all these things come together. When you hear teaching and you're already invested because you've been reading it and you've been asking questions and you've been wondering what God meant by this, and then you talked about it and you heard other people and now you're hearing a teaching on it, you're going to see God open your eyes in something that's a totally different experience than just walking in cold on a Sunday morning and hearing a sermon. So that's what that night is going to look like. And here's how the night's going to go. We're really excited that it's going to be a fun family atmosphere. So growth tracks, ASM, kids ministry, they all start at 6:30. But at 5:45, our doors are going to be open, and we're going to have a big food court in our lobby. And we're going to be selling food at a discount. We're going to make it cheap for you. We're going to have Chick-fil-A sandwiches, salads, pizza, all kinds of stuff. And it's for the whole family. And the reason is because we know one of the hardest parts about having something on Wednesday nights is just getting here, especially if you have kids, getting your family fed and all of that. So we're going to take care of it for you. Come enjoy a meal here with the church family. At 6:30, we'll all go our separate ways. Students will go to ASM, kids will go to kids ministry, adults will go to their growth track groups, and then growth tracks will actually end at 8. And if you're on your own, you can head out. If you have young kids, you can grab them and go. But if you're a parent of students, ASM and preteen are going to go till 8:30. If you need to hang out and wait for them, our coffee shop is going to be open. We're going to be serving desserts, and so you can grab a decaf Americano or whatever you want and hang out and just get to know somebody as you wait for your kids to be done in student ministry. So that is midweek, that is growth tracks. I think it's going to be something that God uses in a really big way for our church, where we can grow more in understanding the Word together, encountering Jesus through the Scriptures. It's not just going to teach you truths, it's going to teach you skills about how to read the Bible. It's one of the hardest parts, I think, about growing in your faith is learning how to sit down with this ancient text and encounter God in it. And you're going to learn how to do that as you show up week after week. So I want to encourage you all to sign up. You can sign up right now, alderwood.cc/midweek, and you can register for growth tracks. And especially for our parents, if you're a parent and you're raising kids here in this church, think about what it says to your kids. Think about the legacy that you're going to leave by saying, we care about our faith in this family. We care enough on a Wednesday night when we could be doing other stuff to show up at church, and we're all going to grow together. I think God might really use that in your family, and I want to encourage you to come. Right now, I want to dive a little bit more deeply into one specific part of midweek and what's going on, and that involves what we're doing with our kids. So I want to start kind of big picture with our kids. We have an amazing growing kids ministry. If you've been here for very long, you have noticed it. There are kids everywhere. They're running around the lobby. They're coming out of rooms we thought were locked. They're everywhere. My kids are running on the stage. There's, all kinds of stuff. And we love that. We love that God is bringing us families and kids here. Right now, our average Sunday attendance, we have 100 kids, birth through kindergarten, 130 kids, K through third. We've got 50 in fourth and fifth grade ministry, 280 total. And this is the biggest kids ministry that we've ever had here at Alderwood. We love it. And we want to be really faithful to be a church that is great at discipling kids, that we partner with parents to raise kids who grow up to be adults, who love Jesus, who want to serve him with their whole life. We're just all about that here. And I've been so proud of our kids ministry team because in this last year, they've done a lot of work in developing a discipleship plan all the way from birth to college. To say, if we have a kid here at Alderwood who's born into our church family and we get to walk with them through their whole youth years, all the way till they go to college or not, graduate, go into the workforce, whatever, what does it look like for us to be faithful at every stage along the way? What does a first grader need in their faith? What does a fifth grader need? What does it look like for somebody to make that transition from middle school to high school? So all of that's being done, and we're beginning to implement that now. And one of the big things that has meant is for preteens, for fourth and fifth graders. And one of the things that we've recognized is that it is just a different world today for fourth and fifth graders. They're connected to the world in ways that you and I never were when we were in that age, and we need something really intentional, really specific for that. And that is how Mitchell Morris ended up on this couch. So we hired Mitchell this summer to be our preteen director, associate director, and we're doing a new ministry, a new model, a new idea. And Mitchell, I'd love for people to hear from you. What gets you excited right now about preteen ministry?
Yeah, so honestly, what I'm most excited about at the moment, and you kind of touched on it, is the partnership with parents. Students are just facing outrageous amounts of anxiety. They themselves are asking questions about their own identity, but people are also asking them questions about their identity that they're having to answer that they didn't even really think about before. And you have social media companies that are spending millions of dollars to get 9, 10, 11-year-olds just hooked on their app or their game or whatever. And
I just want to stop there for a second, because that's terrifying. Think about that, parents. Think about that, church. Companies are spending millions of dollars to figure out how to get inside the head of your 4th grader, of your 5th grader. So if we're going to help them follow Jesus, we've got to be on our game.
yeah, I kind of think a few weeks ago I was playing Foursquare with a 4th grade boy who's 9, and in the middle of hitting the ball back and forth with one another, just kind of in this game, he pulls his phone out of his pocket and goes, "Oh, hold on, I got to check my phone," and steps out of this game because there was something that needed his attention at that moment. And so we're just here to say, as a preteen ministry, this is a mess. And, parenting this is got to be a whirlwind. And we can just sit with that and say, yeah, it is. And we want to partner with parents and come alongside them and just say, let's figure out how we can show your student the love of Christ the best that we can. So we're really excited about that.
So what is that going to look like? You're starting a new ministry. Help people kind of have a picture of what's going to be going on for 4th and 5th graders.
Yeah, so we are going to be running Sunday and Wednesday programming that's going to work together. So on Sunday, a student is going to come to Alderwood Preteen, and they're going to study a passage with their small group. That's a consistent group of students and a consistent couple adults. And then on Wednesday, they're going to hear the passage preached on that they studied the previous Sunday. So they're going to study it on their own and then come and hear it maybe from a new angle or even to continue on the angle that they were studying on Sunday. And I mentioned we are going to have a consistent set of adults that are just going to love these students. And an adult will see a student and know their name, and that student will also know that adult's name because they're their small group leaders.
And that's huge. And that's not true just in 4th and 5th grade. That's not true across all of Next Gen, that we're bringing Wednesdays and Sundays into one ministry, one group of leaders. And so we're going to have 2 hits throughout the week. When you bring them on a Wednesday night, they're going to be hearing something that complements what they're learning on Sundays and teaching them the same truths, the same doctrines, the same stories that are going to help them really grasp who God is and who they are. Same team of leaders, that's huge. We know from research that one of the best things that correlates with kids who grow up in the church and stay in the church is if they had adults who were not mom and dad, who loved Jesus and loved them and had a real relationship with them. And so we're going to really double down on the relationships that kids have with their leaders in church. They're going to be there Sundays and Wednesdays. That's awesome. And we're going to have some fun too. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. We have recently just finished an awesome project. If you have been over to the West Wing, this used to be W200 and then used to be Alderwood's old auditorium. It is now a dedicated 4th and 5th grade preteen play space. And we are so excited to get this place.
Yeah. It's awesome. I wonder what the folks in the choir loft 40 years ago would have thought about what we've done to that space. I hope they would have been excited that we got kids who need that and are going to have a great time.
We are so excited to put this online and just have a place where kids can just have fun, do Nerf wars, go upstairs, work on crafts, do whatever, and just have a dedicated space for them. And this fun really does have an objective. We really believe that play and fun is the back door to the heart. And this is part of how we're going to accomplish that.
Yeah. I mean, really, for kids, 4th and 5th graders, students, younger, it isn't Jesus and then fun that doesn't matter. Jesus and fun go together. Being able to have fun with adults, to build trust, to have camaraderie. My son is 3. He's not going to be up there just yet. But if we're not doing something together, he's not paying attention to me. I mean, to be active with kids, to help them understand what you're saying, so big. And it's going to be a really great thing for our kids moving forward.
We're stoked.
Thanks, Mitchell. All right, we are going to keep moving. And Ari Mailer, director of our Compassion Center. Man, I'm so just loving what's going on right now at the Compassion Center. I want people to hear from you. What's going on?
Well, I'm going to start with a story. We've had a family that's been coming since the fall. It's a Hispanic family. They moved into the city center apartments across the way. Dad's working, full-time job. Mom has the car. Mom decides, I'm gonna learn about my city. I'm gonna walk around. I'm just gonna take my stroller and my kids, and I'm just gonna walk around. Well, on a Wednesday or Thursday, she found herself at the front door of the Compassion Center, and she came in. had an opportunity just to kind of chat with her a little bit. I informed her of the food program and invited her to come back the following Tuesday. So sure enough, she comes back, and 2 or 3 of our phenomenal volunteers, Spanish-speaking volunteers, met with her, loved on her, spent a ton of time with her, and invited her to the Spanish-speaking service the following Sunday. Well, sure enough, she came. We also did give her food, by the way. I forgot about that. But the really cool thing is she and her family have been here every single Sunday since then. And her son is now coming, and I think he's part of Kidsmen. He also was at VBS this summer. And the mom has really fully immersed herself in the church, and she's a part of the Spanish women's ministry. She's taking part of the ESL program there as well. And it dawned on her a short time ago that she really needed to improve her English skills, and she also wanted to become more marketable in the workplace. So she, along with one of our other volunteers, went to Edmonds Community College and learned about their workforce development program and their ESL classes, and she got herself enrolled. Yeah. And this really is just, it's a picture of what we've wanted the Compassion Center to be this whole time.
I mean, I just love that story. It's a story that is just one snapshot of something that's happening over and over and over again. And it brings me back to 5 years ago when this Compassion Center building came on the market, and God dropped it in our lap, and we didn't know what we were going to do, but we felt like God was doing something, and our church was growing. We needed more space in our lobby, and so we came to you, and we said, we think we need to do this. It's going to cost about $5 million. We're going to buy this building. We're going to launch a Compassion Center. We're going to be able to meet the needs in our community. We're going to expand our lobby to be able to grow as a church, and you guys jumped in, and you said yes, and we are seeing the results of that today, where we're not just in this city to preach the gospel. We are here to tell people about their need for Jesus, and yet we're going to do it like Jesus did it. We're also going to care about their physical needs, and we're seeing those things come together in this really beautiful way. And I'm excited to tell you tonight that just this month, we got a donation that put us over the edge, and so that by the end of the month, we will be completely done with all the loan on the Compassion Center, all $5 million paid. Yeah. And thank you. I know many of you in this room, you gave faithfully, you gave sacrificially to make that happen, and God is using it. We are now set up for generations to be a light in this community through the Compassion Center, through our church, and we're really excited about that.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those of you that are not familiar entirely with what we do, obviously we have a food program. The food program is our foundational ministry. Right now we're serving roughly 120 families every Tuesday night. We provide them with about $50 worth of groceries. It ends up being about 3 bags. In addition to the food program, we started a literacy program as well as one-on-one tutoring just this last fall. We also partner with Lehigh Health. They bring their mobile medical unit down. So Tuesday nights, it's a full package. We're really fortunate to be able to come around and just really walk alongside a lot of these families. Yeah. And I got to tell you, we want to grow. We need to grow. Just about every day, we're getting emails and phone calls of families in need. And some of the needs we're not able to meet. They're too large financially or whatever. But I'm able to offer the food program, and so many of these families, they jump at it, and they come, and we're able to sit down with them and really hear their story. And if we have other resources that we can offer besides the food program, we can pray with them. We're sharing the gospel with them, and it's we've been doing this for 3 years now, and it's amazing at the doors that the Lord is opening through handing them 3 bags of groceries, handing them a cup of water, whatever it is.
So the need is huge. We can't meet everything, but we want to grow. And so right now you're serving about 120 families. What's your hope for this year?
Our goal really is that we are serving 200 families this time next year. And obviously, we need help. We need to make sure our shelves are full. We need more volunteers. I mean, you name it.
So there's really two big things that would keep us from getting there. One is people to jump in and serve, because we're not willing to grow by just giving away free food if we can't actually have relationships with the people who are coming. So we need people to jump into the ministry. But there is the financial need as well. You said $50 is about what it costs to take 3 bags of groceries, put it in someone's car, have a gospel-centered conversation with them, pray, invite them in. And we're looking for people who will step up and say, I'm going to be a partner that makes sure that happens once a month. I'm going to give $50 a month so that I know that I'm generously giving, and my money is going to mean that someone is seeing a follower of Jesus from Alderwood Community Church, is asking if they can be prayed for, is being invited into community. And every month, $50 means that that's going to happen. And we're looking for 100 people this year who will say, I'm going to jump in and I'm going to become one of those partners.
And we won't stop at 100. We'll take more.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, $50 is one time. You want to take care of a family for the whole month, that's $200 a month. I mean, whatever you can do. But all this money, it is amazing seeing what God is doing through the generosity of people who are getting to the Compassion Center.
Yeah, it really has. And the last thing I'll just say, so many of our neighbors have expressed their gratitude for the food. But I'll tell you, more often than not, they're expressing their gratitude for the time that our volunteers are spending with them, the opportunity to come and just really share their story, share their burdens, and be loved on.
Yeah. Thanks, Ari. Well, Steve, I want to kind of dovetail from that, because there's this amazing thing that God's done, and we didn't plan for it. He did it. We started the Compassion Center 3 years ago. Many of the families that and our neighbors who have come to the Compassion Center speak Spanish as their first language. At the same time, we had a Spanish-speaking Bible study here that has become a Spanish-speaking congregation, and these things go hand in hand. It's so important that we actually have a community here that speaks Spanish that we can invite people into. Steve, tell us about that.
It's been an incredible ride. Every time I talk to Eduardo and Nicole Carrillo, who many of you know that have been leading this congregation, it's just so exciting to see and to hear what's going on. It started a mere 3 years ago. There's a picture up here of Eduardo at their first Sunday. You see the chairs are empty. He's just frantically praying, Lord, please let somebody show up. They started with 6 people, and they are now at over 100. So it's really exciting. Yeah. And so much of that is the synergy that comes out of the Compassion Center. I asked Eduardo, I said, how many of the folks do you think that attend on Sunday came through the Compassion Center? At least 25. So it's really a beautiful thing that God has put on our laps. I also talked to them recently and heard about last week, they had their family camp. We got some pictures here. 93 folks from their Spanish-speaking congregation went up to Warm Beach Camp, and they had, I think we got a picture here, 9 baptisms.
Wow.
It was spectacular.
That's awesome.
So they're doing a great job. But, I was thinking as we were talking today, I mean, when we talk about vision, it's really easy to think about, okay, this is what the staff is planning. But you alluded to it just a minute ago, Wyatt. Vision is us seeing what God is doing. Like, we're just partnering. We're just coming on board. And it's so exciting to see things like these baptisms and what God's doing. We really want to resource them well. That's one of our commitments this year. We want to financially resource them. We want to help with their staffing. We want to help with benevolence funds. There's a lot of needs there. So we're really excited to be able to do that.
And I want people to grasp, it's long overdue for us to invest more financially in this congregation. The average church size in America is 75 people. This is a congregation of 100 that right now is 100% volunteer-led, and it's been amazing. They're giving so much, but it's just grown beyond the capacity of what volunteers can lead. And so we need to invest in staffing and other resourcing, and it's going to cost money, and we're asking our church to step up and give to that.
And when I see the excitement on your faces when you hear this, it's just a beautiful thing that God's doing to encourage us. So be encouraged. Let's give. Let's keep praying. Let's talk a little bit about our foreign missions partners. Just a few weeks ago, we sent 20 of our ASM high schoolers down to Mexico. It was the first time in several years because of COVID they've been able to do a summer mission trip. And they came back just so excited. They said, Pastor Steve, we're going to meet after third service every Sunday to pray for our missionaries. I mean, they're just on fire. It's been really, really fun to see. In that group of people is a young couple named Josiah and Sophia. I'm actually not going to give you their last names because they're going to a very sensitive place this next year, which is another cool thing God's doing in our congregation, raising up folks that have a heart to reach the nations. You see Mallory Kellum there on the screen. Mallory was one of your interns,
yeah,
right?
when I was in
Wyatt?
ASM, she was one of our interns, and I went on mission trips with her to Albania, and yeah, it's amazing.
Amazing, amazing lady. Rick and Lisa, she leaves, what, Tuesday? Monday. So we're very excited. God's raising up people in our midst to go and reach the nations. God's doing some new things among us. We as a missions committee have been asking ourselves, wow, like, God, what do you want us to focus on? How do you want us to strategically respond? And we have kind of tried to sharpen our focus. We want to reach the hard places by sending and serving those who go. We want to send those who go to the hard places, and we want to serve those that go to the hard places. People like Mallory and Josiah and Sophia and some of our other partners. You can see here we have 16 of our ministry partners represented there. Some of you might look at that group of folks and say, I don't know several of those. One of our goals for this year is to have a little bit more than some Polaroid shots on the back wall over here of our missionaries. We want you to know our missionaries better because that's one of the ways that we serve them well. Last thing I just would mention, Wyatt, is we just are wrapping up our second One Village Transformed partnership with World Concern. World Concern, they do amazing work right here out of Shoreline Christian Ministries. Bryn and myself and several others from Alderwood were able to go and visit Lolkuniani, say it again, Lolkuniani, in central Kenya and see the great work, the ways they're demonstrating growing the gospel there. They've provided clean drinking water for thousands, audio Bibles, literacy training, and they've planted a church, Pastor Meshach. We got to meet Pastor Meshach, so it's a spectacular thing we're seeing there. We're wrapping that one up. We're in the middle of developing our next One Village Transformed. Hope to tell you more about that in the spring, and I look forward to it.
Awesome. Thanks, Steve. All right, last but not least, Jason, you actually don't work here, but it feels like you do. You're here quite a bit.
Sometimes it feels that way. Yeah.
So you're our elder chair, and we've been talking a lot about vision tonight, where the church is headed. The elders serve a lot more behind the scenes, not on stage as often, and you guys are huge in leading this church and helping us figure out where God's calling us and helping us get there. I want to have people hear from you. How are the elders thinking about what's going on? What are you guys excited about right now?
Yeah, I think one thing that people should know is that one of the core missions of the elder board is to shepherd the church, and the definition of that kind of looks different in different ways. Obviously, there's shepherding of the congregation, but there's also a very, very important and unique role in recognizing that we have a paid staff, a wonderful paid staff that is executing the ministry of this church every single week. And it's not often that we stop and think, who is ministering to the staff? Who is stopping and loving them and caring for them? And so the elders have a very unique role to play in recognizing that ministry, especially in America today, full-time ministry, it's a very difficult and challenging job. There's actually a study done by, you can fact check me here, done by Barna, I believe, this year, where they asked churches across the nation, they asked church staff the simple question, this year, have you considered leaving full-time ministry for a non-ministry related job? And overwhelmingly, 34% said yes. But here's what's alarming.
It's actually 38.
38, sorry, thank you for fact checking me. Here's what's truly alarming about that. That number increases as the age decreases. So if you go to 45 years old and younger, that goes up to 46% of full-time ministry staff in America are saying, I'm considering leaving this job. That's heartbreaking. That's something that we on the elder board are passionately trying to combat by loving on our staff. And that looks a lot of different ways. It looks at creating personal relationship with the staff, coming alongside them when they're going through things in life. But it also means making sure that Alderwood Community Church is a place that they want to be, that they want to build their careers here, that they feel that they're not stuck, that they can grow in their careers, grow in the skills of how God wants them to grow as ministers. It also means making sure that we're compensating them competitively and generously so that they want to stay here. There's a lot that goes into that, and it's something that's deeply on our hearts and something that we've been looking at over the last several years and are going to double down on looking at this year as well.
Really excited about right now. I feel like the relationship between the staff and the elders has never been better than it is right now, and it's only improving, and that's credit to you and to the other elders.
Are you just saying that because you're both an elder and a staff member?
I am on both teams, yeah.
So it's great relationship.
I'm shepherding myself phenomenally, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So the other thing that we've been thinking about in terms of shepherding is thinking a little bit about how do we make Alderwood Community Church a place that people want to worship Jesus? How do we make this place inviting and a place where people say, that's where I want to be? And something really amazing has been happening over the last several years. We have a music ministry team here that is absolutely incredible, led by Jack Doney, and the work that they've been doing is amazing. This team has been growing and growing and growing. And I don't know if you all know this, but there are worship songs being written by these teams and put online on Spotify or your favorite streaming service. I mean, there are amazing things happening in our worship ministry here. And the creativity that's being poured into that is something that we think is not a fully tapped resource. And we know that a lot of people at Alderwood Community Church have different desires in how they want to worship Jesus. And that's something that we're looking into and we're excited. So over the course of the last 6 months, we've been looking at how can we honor people and put that creativity into a place where people want to worship with maybe a more classical or traditional service, something where there's maybe some more hymns, where the volume level is a little lower. These are all things that we've been looking at. And for those of you who were here with us on Easter, you might have noticed that we did a pilot of this where we tried something a little bit different, a different style. And that's something we wanted to try, and overwhelmingly we heard that was very loved. So we're excited to say that we're actively putting that creative energy into a classic service, a kind of a new vision of a classic service for Alderwood Community Church that we're going to be putting into effect at the beginning of the next calendar year.
Yeah, excited about that.
Yeah.
And you'll be hearing more as we get closer. We're still kind of in the works a little bit, but over the next several months, we'll be getting to be able to launch that classic service.
Yeah. Another thing that the elders have a responsibility to look at is similar to shepherding is understanding that we are constantly combating in our culture and our society the desire to stray from Scripture. We're seeing division across the nation. We're seeing division in our city. And it is critical that we make sure that we know that Scripture is the foundation of what Alderwood Community Church is about, that the gospel is what it's about. Jesus' sacrifice is what it's all about. So we have been taking on an initiative over the course of the last year that we're going to put into practice this year, which is an essential doctrine document. Basically, it's a very simple document that's written to say, what is core theology to understand what gospel-centered ministry at Alderwood Community Church looks like? And you've heard this before, and I'll repeat it. I won't claim this as my own. There are open-handed issues, ones that we say, you know what, we're not going to hold on to these too tightly. And then there are closed-handed issues, right? There are ones that are non-negotiable, like salvation, right? And so we're trying to make that crystal clear so that we know at Alderwood Community Church, what does theology here at this church mean?
I'm really excited about this because it's a discipleship tool. I mean, we need to be able to make it clear and understandable. What does it mean to be a Christian? What does it mean to follow Jesus? What do you have to believe? And so we've had a doctrinal statement for a long time. It's great, but it's also long and it uses some theological terms that are not clear to a lot of people when they come here for the first time. And as we recognize we have more and more people coming through our doors who are not people who have been in church their whole life. They haven't been reading their systematic theology textbook at home before they came. We want to be able to say, this is what it means to believe. This is what it means to follow Jesus. If you want to be a member here, this is what we're going to ask you to say that you believe. You're going to lead here. This is what you have to say that you're going to lead and teach in. And so really excited about that. We're going to roll that out this calendar year as well.
Yeah. And then the final thing that the elders have a responsibility for that I want to talk about tonight is we wear this duality of a hat. One is to shepherd and love this church as leaders, largely behind the scenes. But also, we're a nonprofit organization, and we have to function as a board of directors to make sure that legally we're following certain things, which includes financial stewardship. And our staff does an incredible job with our budget and our finances. And we serve as a checks and balances and a kind of a backstop to make sure that we have real intentionality behind what we're doing, and that we're being very responsible with our finances. And you've heard a lot of amazing things tonight. You've heard about Alderwood Midweek and the Next Gen ministries there and the preteen ministry. You've heard about our desire to grow the Compassion Center to be able to serve 200 families a night. You've heard about our Spanish-speaking congregation that has been growing above the average American church size, which is still bonkers to me. And we know that it's going to require resources to pull this off. And so this year, as we've been thinking about this vision and looking at what God's doing in this church, there's been a lot of discussion around what does it mean to have financial stewardship over that. So something that has been tradition here at Alderwood Community Church is that we have set our budget any given year at the same dollar amount that came in for giving from the year before. And that's been a tradition. It's been financial stewardship here. And we've made a decision based on the vision that's been happening here that we're going to change that philosophy just a little bit this next year. And that we're going to faithfully step into what we think God is doing here. And we're going to ask for more budget than we brought in for giving this last year. And that is going to require some sacrifice, and it is going to require the church family to step into that with us. But we're not doing so irresponsibly. We have some signs and some information to show you about why we believe that move is actually not only honoring to what God's going to do here, but fiscally responsible. Do you want to talk through that a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, we feel like we're going to take a step of faith in our budget because we're responding to what we're seeing God do. And I want to show you just a snapshot of that. This is a couple graphs. On the left, what you're looking at is over the last 18 months, what we've seen happen with adult attendance here at Alderwood. So in the last 18 months, our adult attendance on Sunday morning has grown by about 44.7%. I can't read that, sorry. 44.7%. That's amazing. Some of you that are here. You started coming in the last 18 months, and we're just really honored that God has given us the opportunity to meet the spiritual needs in our community, to see more people coming. That same time period, on the right, what you see is what's gone on in our giving over the last 18 months. And it's gone up about 7%. And we're grateful for that. That's awesome. That's your generosity. That's some of you who have jumped in and started giving who weren't before. And yet you might notice there's a little bit of a discrepancy there between those numbers, that we're growing in people at 44.7%, we're growing in giving at 7%. And we feel like we can trust God that he's going to bring the resources we need to do the ministry that he's entrusted us to do here at this church. That is, we need more staff and more resources to love people and help them grow in their faith as they come, that as we step out in faith and ask our people to step up and give towards that God is going to be faithful to say yes through your generosity. So we're not increasing our budget by 44.7%. We are, though, increasing it by about 12%. And that's money that we haven't seen yet. We don't know where it's going to come from. But we're confident that God is going to say that he's going to meet the needs that we see here at this church and allow us to do the things that he's set in front of us. And so that's going to involve you. And we're going to be asking you to prayerfully consider tonight what role you might have in meeting that need. But first, we're going to have some Q&A. And so right now, we're going to put 5 minutes up on the screen. We're going to take a little break. If you want to run out and get another round of dessert, go ahead and do that. If you need to use the restroom, go ahead. It's really just going to be quick, 5 minutes. But I hope what you'll do is go back to alderwood.cc/Slido, and it's probably a little late in the game to be submitting a question, but why don't you vote for some that you want us to make sure that we answer, and we'll come back in 5 minutes and do some Q&A with you. All right, go ahead. All right, friends, we are going to jump back in. You guys gave us some great questions, some that weren't that good, if I'm honest, but a lot of go. I'm kidding. All right, so we're going to try to get through as many as we can. We're not going to be able to get through every question here. Our comms team is collecting these all, and we're going to try to give an answer in another format. We don't know how we're going to do it quite yet, but we're going to try to get you answers to more than what we can do on stage today. But I want to at least talk a little bit about the top voted questions here. So I don't know why we didn't see this coming. The top question is light rail. So any news on the light rail situation and how we're preparing for contingencies? The news is that we have done a lot in the last 6 months to work with Sound Transit, to work with our elected officials. We have represented what's going on here really well. They've been on our campus. They've seen what's going on. They've taken all this in, and now Sound Transit's in a 1 to 2 year period of just researching, asking more questions, reworking what's going on. So we're in a stretch now where we're not going to hear a lot of news for probably over a year. And so right now we're just praying. But we believe that we're here and we're going to be here. And that's how we're preparing. Now, I will tell you, leadership is looking at other things. We're not going to, we have hired lawyers. We're doing all kinds of stuff to make sure that we're prepared in the event that something doesn't go our way. But we're confident and excited to see that God's going to keep us here.
Maybe just one other thing to add is we're not just sitting around twiddling our thumbs either. Whenever there's an opportunity to engage with them, not just behind the scenes, but even in a public forum, we're taking advantage of that as well. So I think it was maybe 2 months ago, they had an open forum where they invited the public to come speak, and I think half a dozen to a dozen Alderwood folks went down to talk about various components of what's happening here and why we think we should stay where we're at. So there is active stuff that's happening. It's maybe just not as exciting as our time together at Cascade High School.
Yeah. Although that was fun. We should do that again sometime.
Maybe under different circumstances, though. That'd be great.
All right, question number 2. Where do you need volunteers the most? What I would say is if I invited every staff member up on stage, they'd probably say, in my ministry. But I want to highlight a couple things real quick. So, Mitchell, represent kids ministry for a second. Where's the big need for volunteers with you?
Yeah, kids ministry we are launching a Wednesday night that's going to run alongside Sunday morning's birth through 5th grade, and that's going to happen during the growth track. So there is going to be Wednesday night programming.
Yeah, so that's huge. We talked a lot about 4th and 5th grade. But all across kids ministry, Sundays and Wednesdays are coming together, and there's going to be Wednesday night programming birth through high school on Wednesday nights during growth tracks.
Yeah, and so we need lots of volunteers to do that. I know the growth tracks are going to be awesome, but we also need people to allow other people to go to growth tracks and watch the kids. So we absolutely need nursery volunteers and in preschool and all the way through 5th grade. And so there's absolutely a need. If you walk by the nursery on a Sunday morning, you'll just, you might wonder what the, adult to child ratio is supposed to be. And we want to,
It's under control,
yes.
Mitchell. I know you're new, but your kids are safe. We do need more people, though.
Yes.
Yeah, we need more people. I mean, the reality is that our kids ministry is bigger than it's ever been. We've actually, in the past, had a short stretch where we had more adults on campus in a given week than we have right now. So the ratio of kids to adults in our church has grown a lot, and we need a lot more volunteers loving kids. So thank you. Ari, what's like the big need for you with volunteers right now?
Wow. Well, we need help with distribution. Distribution is the Tuesday night where the food goes out. Connecting with the neighbors. We could use more help in inventory, prepping all those grocery bags. I mentioned the one-on-one tutoring and Joy of Reading, which is the literacy program. So really everywhere.
Yeah. Steve, anything big for you?
I would just throw this out there. We really need folks to help with marriage ministry, which is something I'm constantly developing. I do the majority of our premarital counseling. That is getting a bit burdensome right now. So I would love to train some of you to help me with that, and I think we'll be working on more opportunities in that area.
Yeah. I need more of Steve's bandwidth to help me in my marriage, so we need other people for everybody else. So Kate's not here tonight, by the way. A couple other things I'll just point out real quick is we are starting growth tracks. And some of what we need for that are people who will be table facilitators. So in these groups that broke out, people, and it's not, you don't have to be the guru with all the answers, but just somebody to love a group of people for 12 weeks, make sure your conversation doesn't get totally off the rails. Jeremy would love to talk to you if you are somebody who might be able to step up and do that. We're doing a lot of events these days. We need hospitality team volunteers who will say, I'll help us when we're gathering the church and doing something great like what we did tonight. I'll help you set tables and take care of all of that. So really the needs are huge. They're all over the place. We're going to talk about this at the very end, but alderwood.cc/serve, you can see everything going on. And go there, pray, ask God to show you something. If you can't find a service opportunity there, I don't know how to help you. I'll try. Come talk to me. But there's so many things. So that's great. What is the difference between life groups and the midweek program? That's a great question. So if you think about Connect, Grow, Go, life groups, really big emphasis on connect. We're trying to build long-lasting relationships in groups. And so typically you can leave anytime you want to. We're not going to throw you in jail. But the goal is that you would commit to at least a year when you join a life group, that you would meet week in and week out with the same people in a living room, around a table, and you're often responding to questions from the sermon, so you're certainly growing and you're talking about your faith and what God's teaching you, but it's in that relational context. Growth tracks is you're certainly have the opportunity to connect with people, but it's more growth-centered, just 10-week commitment. So this is not the group that you're going to meet with every week for the rest of the year or the rest of your life or anything like that. And so those are some of the main differences. And we hope that out of growth tracks, new life groups will spring up, that people will say, man, it turns out we like each other and we're seeing God do stuff and let's keep going. That'd be awesome. But they are going to be significantly different there. The other thing I'd say is, so the life group model, the main thing that happens in life groups is talking about what God's teaching you through the weekly preaching at Alderwood. And growth tracks is going to be just a separate thing from that. You're not going to be in the same passages that we're in on Sunday mornings. It's going to be more just a separate Bible study.
Yeah, maybe to add to that, something I think you touched on earlier, and just to make this really, really clear, at one point when we had adult fellowships at Alderwood, there was this very interesting 3-step program into kind of connection, Christian connection, right? There was big church where, hey, I'm coming in off the street and I just want to be alone in the lobby. No offense, lobby people. And I just want to, don't talk to me, right? And then there's this adult fellowship, which is a smaller group, but still, decent sized, maybe 50, 75 people. And hey, I can get a little bit closer to intimacy. And then that kind of led to, hey, I'm ready to commit to being in someone's living room with a much smaller group, and in some cases forming some lifelong bonds. And one of the things that we've known for a while is that when we unfortunately had to move on because of staffing reasons from our adult fellowships, we lost that kind of middle piece. And so it kind of went from big church to super intimacy with people, and not everybody's ready to make that massive step. And so one of the things that we're passionate about for Alderwood Midweek is that it can, from an adult perspective, can serve as that middle ground, a chance for you to kind of, okay, I'm going to connect with a little bit of a smaller group, but maybe not get so intimate that I'm meeting all year, as you said.
Yeah, that's good. All right, with the Bible reading program finishing up soon, will there be a new reading program we will be doing together as a church? So we loved the reading program this year, and over 1,000 people got involved in it. It was awesome. We're going to talk about that this Sunday and just celebrate what God did. There's not going to be an official year-long reading program next year, though we hope that some of the tools we've used and the reading programs in the Bible app will be something that people in our church use all the time. And we love the experience of having people able to talk to each other, and so we're thinking down the road about potentially in future teaching series, maybe for a snapshot saying, here's a reading program for a month that's going to go with our teaching series. That's an idea. We don't have that implemented just yet. But as this last year was a huge emphasis for our church on grow, we're going to be thinking in the next 12 months about really energizing our church around the value of go. And so come this Sunday to the one service. We're going to talk a lot about our theme for the year, go all in. And so there's a lot of new things ahead, not what we did last year, but we hope that people will keep going. Pick a different reading plan, find other stuff that's going on with the Bible Project, and we hope that we'll see a lot of fruit come, not just from what happened in this 12 months, but what God does in the future through that as well. Do you see a place for continuing Sunday morning fellowship groups, aka adult Sunday school classes? And you just mentioned that a little bit. For a long time at Alder, we had adult fellowships, kind of Bible studies, community groups that met on Sunday mornings. One of the realities of our campus and just the growth we've seen is that logistically, running those things on Sunday mornings just isn't possible for us anymore. We're having a hard time having people here in our parking lot just with what we do right now on Sunday mornings, and so having a lot more people on campus, there's just not room. And so that's why we're taking this step to really emphasize Wednesday nights, so that we can have the same kinds of things happening, but just be able to logistically meet the needs of our church in that way. So we don't anticipate bringing back adult fellowships on Sundays, but for those of you that loved that kind of thing or think that would be a great thing, I think that midweek Wednesdays is going to meet a lot of those same needs and do a lot of the same great things that we saw happen through that. What would kids age 10 and under do on Wednesday night in lieu of Awana? Have we thought about that one, Mitchell? I'm just kidding. Yeah, so everything Mitchell said tonight is what's happening.
Yeah.
And I do want to make it clear, it is birth through high school on Wednesday night. So every age of kid, if you come to midweek growth tracks, your kids are going to be doing great stuff there. Is there a group for kids that are graduating from high school but aren't married, looking for fellowship? Yes. Do you want to talk about that?
Absolutely, yeah. So we have two groups that are kind of designed to capture that, stage of life. We have a college group that's a little bit of a misnomer because certainly people who aren't in college can be in that, but that's for 18 to 22-year-olds roughly, and that's a group that meets weekly and is a group that I was a part of and just loved. And then from about 22 and a day to 27 or so, we've got a young adults life group that is just like blowing up right now. And so
it's so fun to see what's happening in that young adult life group. Yeah. So whoever asked that question, come find Mitchell. He'll hook you up.
When do those groups meet? Tell
that's
everybody.
A great question, Steve.
We know they meet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At a regular weekly time.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. Mitchell hates me right now. He's gonna get me back.
In all seriousness, though, we don't know the answer, but we do have online alderwood.cc/connect.
Thursday, we've gotten new information.
Thursdays sound like a great day that might be happening. But for all of you, if you're wondering, when does that happen? Where is that? What is going on? Alderwood.cc/connect is an online directory. We keep it up to date. It's got everything going on in the church. You can register right there or ask for more information. So that's a great resource for you to use whenever you have questions like that.
Sunday night for college, Thursday for young adults.
Look at that. We were so prepared. All right. All right. Well, with that, we're going to have to wrap things up because it is 7:30, and I know that we didn't get to all the questions. So, like I said, stay tuned. We're going to reach out and try to give written responses to some of these questions that we didn't get to. I'm going to be up front, and some of our panel is going to be up front afterwards. So, if you have a burning question that didn't get answered, feel free to just come up and talk to us tonight. But before we send you out, I want to invite you to make a decision tonight to get involved with what God is doing. You've heard a lot of things going on. Heard a lot of different ministries, a lot of different doors that God is opening. And just the reality is that what God does here at Alderwood, it's not about what the staff does. It's about what our church does. Nothing we do can happen without our church family coming together, giving their time, giving their money. And maybe this is a night where you're going to make a decision that you're going to step into that. Maybe you've been coming to Alderwood for a while and you've been somebody who's just coming on Sunday mornings and you're sitting in the pews and you're learning and you're growing, but that's where it's ended for you. I want to ask you to take the next step to really become part of the family and not just somebody who attends on Sunday. One of the biggest things is where you can serve, and that's what we've been talking about. So alderwood.cc/serve, and if you don't have that spot here at our church yet where you're using your gifts and what God has entrusted you with to pour into the lives of others, your growth as a follower of Jesus is dependent on serving. That's how Jesus works in our life. As we minister to others, he helps us grow. And so it isn't about, walking with Jesus for 20 years and just focusing on your own growth and getting so that you're a super Christian and then you're finally ready to serve somebody else. That's not how it works. As soon as you get to know Jesus, he starts giving you opportunities to love others, and through that, he helps you grow. So we want you to find that. alderwood.cc/serve. But then the other reality is the finances. That's what we've been talking about as well. And so as you came in, you all got a commitment card. And what I'm going to ask you to do tonight is to consider if God is maybe calling you to give in a new way in this next year. We're raising our budget by about 12%. That's in a few different really key areas. Part of it is just we need more giving into our general fund. And as you've heard us talk about midweek and growing our kids ministry team, as you us talk about starting a classic service, it's going to take a new tech team and a new worship team. If you heard us talk about all these kinds of things that happen, all of that is just through the normal, regular giving to our church. When you give your tithes and offerings on a Sunday morning, that money goes into the general fund. And if you are somebody who has never started partnering with us financially, I would love for tonight to be the night that you make a commitment. What you can do with this card is whatever you decide you want to do, take a pen and just write on this blank what you are going to commit to give this next year above what you're already doing. So many of you are already giving generously. That's awesome. Thank you so much. We're asking right now for what we can see committed above and beyond what we're already coming in. And so don't include what you're already doing. But if God is saying maybe there's more, maybe there's something that's on your heart, go ahead and write that down on this card. Don't write your name. This isn't about tracking you. But we want to see what God does tonight. We want to see what he puts on your heart. And so for us to be able to see what you're saying, we want you to fill out a card that you're going to drop off tonight on your way out. But the general fund is what a lot of this stuff happens with, but there's two other really key funds that we want to highlight tonight. The second is the Compassion Center. And you heard Ari talk about how $50 puts groceries into the car of one of our neighbors in need every week. And maybe you have not yet become a part of the Compassion Center ministry, and tonight's the night that you're going to do that. And so if you're going to do that, just write CC on that card, Compassion Center, and tell us how much you want to commit to give in this next year, whether it's a one-time gift or whether it's monthly or whatever that is. That is a huge need. We think that is going to grow tremendously, but only through the generosity of our people. And then finally, I want to talk about the Mission Fund tonight. So our missions fund, it supports those amazing missionaries that you saw that week in and week out are reaching the hard places with the gospel. And so the missions fund supports those families. But in addition to that, that is where the money to support our Spanish-speaking congregation is going to come from this year. So if you want to get behind staffing up and seeing that Spanish-speaking congregation grow and thrive in the next generation, I want to have you consider making a monthly commitment to the missions fund to make that happen. And if that's something that God's putting on your heart tonight, you can just write missions fund on that card. Tell us how much you want to commit to giving. And then the reason why this card has two blanks on it is because we want you to write down the exact same thing twice. So we want you to write down whatever you're going to commit to. You're going to tear it off. And on your way out, take this big part of it, and you're going to drop it in the buckets that people are holding in the back so that we can count up what happens tonight. And then we want you to take this little part and just hold on to it so that you remember what you committed to tonight between you and God. We're not going to check up on you. We don't even know who you are, but we are asking that you would take this so that as September rolls around, as you're updating your online giving and you're deciding what you're going to do, that you would remember what you're saying tonight. So that's what our ask is. We're really excited for this whole weekend. Tomorrow night, I hope you'll come back. We're going to be worshiping together. We're going to be praying and asking God to bless our church in this next year, to lead us where he's going. We're going to be baptizing people. We have over 15 people already signed up to be baptized tomorrow night. And maybe that's you. Maybe you're not on the list. Come, get baptized. You'll have a chance tomorrow night as well. And then Sunday morning, right here, actually not right here, in the parking lot, one service, our whole church together. We're going to worship. We're going to talk about where God's calling us this next year, and that is going to be a really fun day with the block party to follow. So, church, we love you. So grateful for you. You came here tonight because you believe in what God's doing at Alderwood. That means the world to us. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for jumping in with your time, with your money, with your love, with your faith, everything. It means the world to be at a church where we have this unity and this excitement about what God's doing. So thank you. Have a great night. We'll see you tomorrow. See ya.